Yes.
Yeah,
So
that.
we can begin.
We can begin. Thank you, Shipra. Thank you, Ravi.
Link has been sent to the participants?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, Shruti, can you see me?
Yes, you clearly. So maybe we can start.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, uh, very good evening, good afternoon to everybody present in this inaugural session of the 2-week refresher course in film studies, which has been organized by the Teaching Learning Center of Ramanujan College. It is a great privilege for me and a moment of great satisfaction and happiness to have all of you with us for this very important refresher course. I'm saying this is an important refresher course because this is the first time that the Teacher Learning Center of Ramanujan College has organized a refresher course on film studies. We have been organizing refresher courses as well as faculty development courses on various other subjects and discipline, and as well as interdisciplinary programs. But this is the first time that we are doing one on film studies. So it is with great pleasure, great happiness that I'm welcoming all of you, all the participants in this program today. It's particularly heartening because we are doing this program on the 100th centenary celebrations of the great Shruti Roy, the genius filmmaker, the master filmmaker of our country. And we are celebrating the centenary year. And if you've seen the brochure that we have published, the cover photograph is from that iconic scene of Shruti Roy's Pather Pachali, where the two children are watching the steam engine come in, the train coming in. This has been an iconic scene in cinema. So we thought that we will kind of make this program as a tribute to the master of filmmaking, Shruti Roy. It gives me great pleasure and an honor to have with us today Professor Abhijit Roy, who is a professor in the Department of Film Studies and who's also the director of the School of Media and Communication Studies and Communication and Culture at Jadavpur University, Kolkata. Professor Abhijit Roy is a very, very well-known, internationally well-known scholar on film studies, and he has two major books which I can mention now. That is, one, he has co-edited a book called Channeling Cultures, Television Studies from India. This is an OUP publication. And the other one is a work on the Soviet filmmaker, Sergei Eisenstein. This was published in 2004 by Papyrus Calcutta. He has, of course, lectured all over the world. He has been in Maison des Sciences de Forme in Paris, in the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies. He has been a fellow there. He's been a fellow at the University of Oregon, Fujian Catholic University in Taiwan. And he is presently interested in alternative media practices. And he works with his students to create a number of fieldwork-based multiple media websites, including one on bookbinding workers of Calcutta. This would be a very interesting kind of work where he's combining his interest of cinema and film studies in media practices. And I'm looking forward for his lecture, which will happen in the next week, where he will also talk about technology and cinema in contemporary times. But it is a very, very great privilege, Professor Roy, for you to be with us, and we feel very happy. And I must say that he has been an expert and he has been an advisor to this film studies program. And his help and his support has been absolutely fantastic. He has been very, very cooperative. He has just come out and helped me and my team in putting this together. So thank you, Professor Roy, for being with us, and a very hearty welcome to you. I will also introduce the principal of my college, Professor S.P. Agarwal. Professor Agarwal is an expert in the field of international finances. He's a man of commerce and management, but he has been after me for quite some time to do this refresher course on film studies. So thank you very much, sir, for encouraging us. But one of the most wonderful things about Professor S.P. Agarwal, our principal, is that he's clichédly in our university is known as a dynamic principal. But what he actually is, he's an extremely encouraging principal for anybody who wants to do something innovative or interesting in college. He never ever says no to anybody. So no doubt in the last 1 decade that he has been the principal of our college, the college has really changed, transformed itself in almost a magical way. And today we are an A-grade, NAC A-grade college, and probably one of the best colleges in the University of Delhi, thanks to the fantastic leadership that Professor Agarwal provides. Of course, he has studied abroad, he has taught abroad, but he's also a NAC peer team member and a very, very fine administrator. And we are all very proud of him as he kind of leads our university. I will also introduce my team here. I have with me Dr. Shruti Jain, who has been coordinating this program. She has immense experience in doing these things. So much of the work, I give it to her to do, which she does with great expertise, supported by Megha Sharma, who's from the department. Both Megha and Shruti are from the Department of English. And I have Shipra, also not from my department, but from the Department of Political Science. So this becomes an interdisciplinary work in real sense, and she has been also helping. I also have Nidhi, who's been in the administration of this and of this program. So welcome once again to all of you. And I will now request my prince. Of course, I've forgotten, I have Arzu. She's got a cold, so she's switched off her mic and her camera. But yes, Arzu from the English department is also with us in this program. So my dear friends all over the country, the participants of this program are spread across the country. It's a pan-Indian audience that we have, probably because we are on this online mode. And I am very happy, thrilled to be welcoming you. And I'm looking forward to spending the next 2 weeks with you with some very engaging and intellectually stimulating lectures that we have have for you. So let me request Professor S.P. Agarwal, Principal of Ramanujan College, to say a few words. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nirmalya. Thank you for the nice words and welcoming everyone in this program. Our chief guest and mentor for today's program, Professor Abhijit Roy from Department of Film Studies, Jadavpur University. My colleagues who are with us in this program from various fields, as Dr. Nirmalya introduced, and our participants who have joined us from all over the country for this special program on film studies, basically 2-week online interdisciplinary refresher course on film studies, which is a unique program. So welcome to all of you on behalf of Ramanujan College, Delhi University. Friends, let me tell you that we are always trying to do programs on various areas and some specific, highly specialized areas. In the last 1.5 years, under this coveted program of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission for Teachers and Teaching, we have organized about 100 programs and areas or the subject ranging from research, discipline areas, and specific programs on Jammu and Kashmir. And today we are holding it on, film studies. So I always encourage the faculty to do something interdisciplinary and innovative. That is the key, in organizing and training the teachers. Well, basically the college is a very small entity in terms of Delhi University colleges. We are focusing on undergraduate education and offers about 15-16 honors courses. Besides, we have some centers of higher learning, and we are one of the key in training the teachers from this Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission. And this mission, to achieve this mission, we are always, very keen to do the programs in different areas which are of interest to the faculty, and faculty in turn can learn and deliver it in their classrooms. So this is the main thing. I'm not really from this area, but being a head of the institution, I'm speaking to you, and well, I can say that Nirmala has put the things in right perspective, and I'm sure this will be a unique program. And today, even in online mode, initially when the pandemic started, film personalities were kind of, they were out of job in the sense that how they will go and produce the films. But later on, everybody, through the technology, through OTT platforms, a lot of films, a lot of serials, a lot of various activities is being done in this area. But still, there are traditional people who are not, very comfortable with this technology and the films. But the films has always been using the technology. There is no doubt. Even 100 years ago, even today, of course, it has modernized a lot. So I'm sure that this program on film studies will train teachers in this area, and they can also apply their knowledge of literature in films, because the films and literature has a very unique role, because most of the films which we see, either from good literature, or from the stories, or from the different fields, and they have used literature not only from Hindi, English, but philosophy, history, political science. Every kind of literature is being used in films, and they are based on certain stories. So the only thing is that when we teach literature, how we can use this media, the film media, to teach literature to the students. So that is the key, and also this will help them in order to make their career in this area, because if they learn some basic techniques, of course they can make career out of it. Well, most of the institutions in India, they do not have those kind of facilities, but we are little fortunate that we have a small facility where we call it a studio, or a media lab, or a filmmaking place, where we can at least do some activity on films. We can do some editing. We can also produce small things. So what it is required is that if we want to use this media, we need to develop the technology in colleges and universities in order to start somewhere. Of course, in the last few years, we are not teaching film studies as course, but our students are doing some or the other activity on film studies, because being Nirmala being in this field, and there are other teachers who are interested, so they are keen to teach the basic skills to the students. So with this background, I'm sure that with this program, this knowledge will spread among the teachers, and they can take this knowledge to their classrooms and can create some of the infrastructure in order to use this technology, especially when we are talking about the National Education Policy 2020, where the application part is very important. Interdisciplinarity is important, and These things need to be more promoted because, earlier Nirmalia was telling me that film studies was not recognized as one of the discipline or one of the areas in English or in other studies. But with the emphasis of national education policy, I'm sure that these things will be much more important, relevant for the faculty as well as for the students. So with this, once again, thank you very much. And I once again welcome Professor Abhijit Roy for sparing his time to be with us on this important subject of film studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir mentioned that some people are uncomfortable with cinema, and he also mentioned that there's a relationship between literature and cinema. I almost thought that he was now going to intrude into what seemed to be our domain. But thank you very much, sir. So those are the areas that we will be discussing. We have discussions on what cinema means, language of cinema. We are discussing on literature and cinema, adaptation and cinema. We are discussing things. We have presentations on technology and cinema. We have presentations on different areas of film, like Hindi film or Marathi film, and how the marginalized communities are represented. So we have an array of topics which we will cover in these 2 weeks. And we are also, even the language of cinema, there are a number of lectures on the language of cinema. So thank you very much for those very encouraging words. I'm sure, sir, we'll have a very interesting 2 weeks in front of us. Before anything else, I think one of the important things is there are certain rules, certain conditions that are there for the participants to fulfill. I know the certification is an important thing, but it is not the most important thing. Probably the most important thing is to gain from these lectures in the next 2 weeks. But the certification is important, and therefore there are certain rules to be fulfilled before that certification can be done. So I will now request Dr. Shruti Jain to briefly tell us what those rules and conditions and regulations are for the participants to follow in the next 2 weeks. Dr. Shruti.
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, a warm welcome to this online 2-week interdisciplinary refresher course in film studies. As sir has said, there are some rules to just ensure an easy and smooth working of the course. So I'll be reading out the rules. First, as almost all of you have registered, registration is a mandatory thing for all the participants. It is also compulsory for all of you to register on the LMS portal, as all the material and information that is required and that will be posted about the course will be available only at the portal. So the daily sessions will be accessible only through the portal. So registration on the portal is a must thing. There will be a compulsory assessment, and yes, there will be no exemption possible from that assessment. The daily assignments, quizzes, PPT slides or Word or document slides have to be finished by the given deadline, and that deadline will be indicated on the portal itself. So with every assignment, the deadline will be there. And it is, as I have said, it is compulsory mandatory to attempt and submit all the quizzes and assignments. And finally, there will be one final MCQ on 4th of September. That is also a compulsory test that everyone will have to take. Then all of you will have to score a minimum of 50% in total to get the program completion certificate. And it is also must to attend all the live sessions, though there are not many live sessions, but as they will give you an opportunity to interact with the resource person, it is must to attend the live sessions. Also, as it was done today, the link for the live sessions, the YouTube link for the live session will be provided in due time before the session starts. Then feedback forms. As you know that this is a part of Ministry of Education, and this program is organized under the scheme of PMMM NMTT. So according to that, feedback is a very important part of the course. So feedbacks should be filled promptly. Every day you'll be given a feedback form, so that has to be filled. Then internet facility. This is something that we are really helpless. So you have to ensure internet facility at your end. We will not be responsible for any internet related issues. So that is something that you have to look after. Then there will be graded certificates. So on the basis of your performance, on the basis of your performance in the assignments and different quizzes, you'll be graded, and the graded at the end of the course, graded certificates will be given to you. Now the next point is very important. This is in case if you have any kind of issue, any kind of query or problem during the 2 weeks online course, you have to mail the problem and query to this email ID that is also given in the FAQ, which have the FAQ which has been posted on the Telegram group. I can read the ID again. It is film @ramanujan.du.ac.in. Now we will email you. We'll revert as soon as possible at the earliest opportunity. But please, it is very important for you to know that the query sent through the mail will be entertained. So we will not be able to look into the queries which are sent through any other medium apart from this email. And the last thing is that joining this Telegram group is very important, because if suppose there are any emergency announcements, any other FAQs or schedule that has to be that have to be given to you, it will be done only through the Telegram group, and it can be done fastest through the Telegram group. So please enroll yourself on the Telegram group also. These were some of the rules. Best wishes for the coming 2 weeks. Thank you, Nirmala sir.
Thank you, Shruti. I don't think your rules were very frightening. I think
No.
they can all be fulfilled. To do a quiz at the end of the lecture, to do a small little assignment, and to do a little bigger assignment as the 2 weeks go, and a final quiz. And to send the feedback. These are all not very difficult things to do. We would, in generally the participant would be engaged with this refresher course. So a certain amount of your time will be taken to do this, including the bibliographies that we will be posting after lectures, where you can always look into those texts and books, because we are looking to enhance our knowledge about film studies, and to carry it from there and to use it in our pedagogy and in our research. So I don't think it's a very challenging thing that you put in front of us, Shruti. I'm sure all my participant friends will be able to fulfill your criteria. It is now my real pleasure to invite Professor Abhijit Roy, who also happens to be a very dear friend of mine. And he also happens to be from the university where I did my MPhil from years back. So may I now request Professor Abhijit Roy to please kindly address us. Professor Roy.
Thank you, Professor Shamanto. I call you Nirmaloda because our friendship goes a long way back. And let me also address with due honor Professor Agarwal, who's the principal of the college, and heard good things about you, not only from Professor Shamanto, but from many others, that your leadership is exemplary. Dr. Shruti Jain, who is one of the organizers, possibly the person who has actually organized this right from the front, along with Professor Shamanto, and members of the team, Megha Sharma, Arzu Saha. I mean, I'm so privileged to have you all on the forum, and of course, the participants who are attending. And I hear that more than 100, possibly 120 or 30 participants are there.
We have about
130.
130, that's quite a lot.
150.
Yeah.
150.
Okay. So, I mean, that is quite a lot. And I'm so pleased that so many participants have registered. And in fact, there is one reason for participants registering in such large numbers. with Ramanujan College's the teaching learning centers programs, because Ramanujan College has actually earned quite a name all over India, especially when it comes to such training programs for teachers, refresher courses, faculty development programs. I have been to one of those. I have been. I did sort of participate as a speaker in one of those FDPs, as far as I remember. That was back in possibly 2015 or 16. And I could see, not only the zeal with which the participants participated in the questions they were asking, but the reputation that Ramanujan College has actually earned, not only in the field of actual teaching, something that leads to degrees, but also such certificate courses. And I'm sure that that's because of the standard, that's because of the level, the quality which it has achieved. And it does take a lot of time and energy and dedication and commitment. And the teachers of the college, those who are behind organizing such programs, they are behind it. And I'm really truly honored to be the chief guest of today's program, and also for being able to deliver the inaugural address, which should be very brief, I can assure you, because I mean, there's no point, sort of giving a long lecture on such occasions. Um, I have a particular name for this: dignitary lectures. And dignitary lectures are usually very boring. So, but I'll try to stick to some aspects of the subject. Of course, I mean, in this very short premise, you cannot introduce film studies as a discipline. I mean, that would not be the right approach. But I would like to say some very basic things about film studies as a discipline, as somebody who comes from the first batch of the first master's batch of film studies in India, of which I was part in the middle of the 90s, and then somebody who has been teaching for almost 25 years now, and has been part of various also syllabus committees and expert committees in which we have been trying to help others develop film studies syllabi and programs and designing programs, etc. So I have literally seen a lot, and especially this particular discipline developing in India. That does not necessarily mean that whatever I see, one has to comply with, one has to agree with, but I have seen this particular discipline growing and evolving. So it is from that experience, from that perspective of that experience, I want to share a few of my thoughts, and something which should come handy to the participants, because some of the participants, though they have registered for a faculty development program, I presume that they actually come from many disciplines and which are not even proximate to film studies. I mean, they come from science and engineering, and even if they come from arts, I'm sure that they're from social sciences, maybe from economics or history, and they're interested in films. That's fine, but they might not be sort of acquainted with the academic protocols and jargons and the tools of film studies, which has established itself, let's say, from the 1970s, especially from the time when post-classical film theory sort of bloomed as a kind of discipline in the sense of being taught in a university. But of course, I mean, intellectual engagement with films goes back to in the teens of the 20th century and 1920s. So, but there are ways and ways of approaching film, and we also talk about the earlier mode of trying to understand film, which was film appreciation. Where the project was to develop a taste for appreciating good films. And the key word would be let's say aesthetics. How to appreciate good films. Which would be somewhat a kind of an elite exercise, but which will also be invested in alternative politics, in issues of societal changes, interrogations, iconoclastic sort of movements. In case of film studies, what became important, especially with what we now call the cultural turn of the 1970s, in which you see some of the academic engagements or some of the movements, some of the mm, intellectual engagements erupting in a new way. It's not that they were not there, like feminism, for instance, issues in gender, body, and sexuality, issues in politics, issues in race. And this is the kind of a world scenario I'm talking about. And film studies is actually part of that kind of a sensibility of interrogating the institution, of questioning the institution, of of um, uh, engaging with a certain sensibility of the protest. Now, this kind of an analytical fervor, this kind of an analytical acumen is something which is inalienably attached to film studies. So this is something that we have to actually remember, and it is actually a kind of a kind of an effect or something which came out of it is what we saw in the 1990s. Satyajit Ray Nirmalu, the took name of Maestro Satyajit Ray, actually came to Jadavpur University while he was accepting to accept the honorary delete from Jadavpur University. And in his convocation address, he said that it's now time that we thought of introducing academic study of film in India, because it's been a long time that this is being taught in the Western context and other contexts in Latin America also. So we should start this, and let us also not forget that there have been very strong film society movements, right from 1947 in India, which would be engaging primarily in in with the film appreciation mode, basically. But questions of politics, as I'm telling you, the questions of class and caste and gender and body, sexuality, the issues in gaze, the questions of interrogating the institution, etc. Something which started to erupt with specific kind of engaging, a certain kind of in a certain kind of an approach to understanding film. That also started in India, and especially from the late 1980s. And one particular institution should be mentioned here, that is Chitrabani in Calcutta. And there are a lot of writings and people who are writing, and you can think of not only Satyajit Ray and Ritik Kumar Ghatak and Mrinal Sen, but also largely the new Indian film, the new wave in Indian cinema started from 1969 with Mani Kaul's Uski Roti and Mrinal Sen's Bhuvan Shom. So writings on film actually started to gain a great degree of political church, and these were kinds of writings which could not be categorized, within the straight jacket of either film appreciation or film studies, because these are like creative people commenting on their own practice and sometimes analyzing on others' practices. But this particular trajectory is very important because they were kind of trying to negotiate between these two trajectories of film appreciation, the aesthetically invested film appreciation, politically invested film studies that you have. So, there is no point actually making distinctions between them, because, how can you have a concept of politics without the idea of the aesthetics, and vice versa? So, let us not say that these are, they can be separated and distinguished. But for the sake of understanding, one has to sort of chart out trajectories. And in this very short premise, I cannot go on and on about the genesis of film studies as a discipline, the evolution of film in India. But I think one should have that kind of a sense of The history of, I won't say discipline because it's very porous, because the very word discipline carries with it a certain a sense of being non-porous and opaque and something which is not open. But film studies, compared to others, possibly something which is still very open. If you've seen something last night, you can actually write in the answer script, and something which is still developing and something which is evolving, which possibly means that it has certain disadvantages, but which possibly means that it has more of advantages. You can be part of it. Those participants who are there today um, come from many areas, come from various disciplines. It's from your perspective, you can start writing on film in such a way, or maybe watching a particular film, or coming to know about certain developments, in the arena of the film, might actually lead you to write something, which could actually create a certain perspective. And film studies still, at least compared to others, is, let me say, and I'm using this with a lot of risk, a smaller discipline, at least from the perspective of, the number of universities in which this is taught, etc. You can really make an intervention. This is an advantage. You cannot do such a thing so easily, in, let's say, in a discipline like history, which has more or less established canons, and it takes a lot of time and energy and intellectual kind of an sort of even possibly risk to intervene. But film studies still has that kind, that tenor and level of fluidity in it, and do take advantage of it. So in fact, I would tell the participants to ask questions throughout the course, whoever is a resource person. No question is banal, so whatever, even if something seems very commonsensical to you, something which you might think that no, this cannot be asked because this is something which is going to be asked by somebody who teaches physics, but do ask it. Everybody watches film. I'm not saying that you are a master, therefore, in film studies, but still, you should be inquisitive, do ask questions, because this is still a very porous kind of an area of engagement, but which, of course, once again, does not necessarily mean there are no canons, there is no film theory. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that, and there is another thing which is very interesting, is that over the last few years, not only films, has happened to radio, television, all other medium or apparatus, whatever you call it, is that everything has now gone into an intermedia context. Cinema is no more about going to a theater, making your ticket. It's a big screen, watch it on a big screen. It's a dark theater, no lights. And, that larger than life experience, I'm not saying it's gone, but there are many alternatives to that as well. I mean, we watch film nowadays on our, on small screens. Of course, it started with television, but then, of course, we have on laptops and mobile phones and tabs and desktops everywhere. So the very object of the film is no more as it used to be even 20 years back. So this intermedia context of film is something which is crucial. And this is the reason why film studies syllabi have been changing across the world. In tune with that, we have also been trying to change it from 2003 onwards. Within the film studies syllabus, we have among the 16 courses, we have 2 courses. One is called Television and Popular Culture in India, where we constantly talk about television, because we think that without understanding the larger mediatic context, it is increasingly getting difficult for us to understand any particular medium, because it is that intermedia context where there is a convergence of expertise, of technology, of finance, of aesthetics, of form. And within that context, you have to locate, in our case, film. But of course, in other cases, it could be radio, it could be television. Everything is located in that that kind of context. So we have television and popular culture in India. There is another course which I take care of. It's called Globalization, Culture, and New Media, which is devoted to internet and cyber cultures and social media and everything. You can understand that this is something that we had to do. From 2003 onwards, then 2013 we changed it further. So so I'm saying this because and you just keep track of the disciplines of history or political science or even English departments. I'm saying even because English department has been very, I mean, these English departments are closer to our hearts. I mean, they are actually proximate in terms of concern. It's not a coincidence that actually it is because of the efforts of primarily English professors and teachers from across the world, from across, especially in India, that the film studies departments were established. And films and English departments have been pioneers in having components of film, starting with film and literature, but they have now gone into various other areas as well. So actually, English departments are the ones who have been instrumental in setting up film studies departments in India, and even elsewhere, But still, you would find that kind of a, kind of a. I'm not. It's not a. It's not a question of saying that one is resistant to changing syllabus, but it's a question of, the film possibly is more fluid and changing so fast. The very world of the audiovisual is chaotic. It's very difficult to keep track of that. But still, one has to hold on to some kind of basic theories and canons without which you cannot understand. I'll end by referring to sort of four aspects of film studies, syllabus and teaching, and forget about syllabus and teaching, four aspects of film studies as an academic area of engagement. Something which I'm sure that you don't have that confusion, many people have that confusion, is that is to confuse film studies and filmmaking. So I mean, they still keep asking, something that we had to face also in Jadavpur University. Of course, I am not one of those people who established it, and I was a student of the first batch, but we had that kind of a sense of the huge amount of resistance. Of course, the age-old perception about cinema is that the students would bunk classes and they would watch films, right? I mean, so, and the assumption is that it's popular film. So film is bad education. So there is a tremendous amount of resistance towards formal teaching, learning around film. So Jadavpur University had to kind of go against the tide. And of course, I'm having a recommendation of Shruti Jain helped possibly. And so that distinction is something that one should be very, very clear of. Film studies, which I suppose I have made it quite clear, is something which is invested into an intellectual and critical understanding of society and culture and history and politics. And I mean, you could go on and on, issues in class and culture and gender and body and sexuality, whatever. It is not primarily invested into filmmaking. So filmmaking is something which is taken care of and trained by film institutes. Film studies is primarily concerned with study of film. So initially, when we were asked about filmmaking, we said that in an English department, as you are not trained into the craft of writing poems and stories, we don't teach you how to make a film. We rather talk about the more than 100-year-old history of cinema and something which is more proximate to literary theory, critical theory, cultural theories, to history and politics and philosophy and such disciplines. So humanities and social sciences. So that is important. But so film studies proper, you can say, for the sake of understanding, But this is very important. It does not mean that film studies should completely read itself from a component of filmmaking. So if you look into the syllabus of Jadavpur University Film Studies Department and many others, you would see among the 16 courses, there is one particular course devoted to actual hands-on experience of working with sound and images and script. Because and of course, I mean, with low-end technologies, I mean, we just ask students that you have mobile phones and you do something, and so that's that creative input is an exchange is something which is crucial. So we have, let us say, that analytical part, criticism, that part. It's number one. So number two is filmmaking. So we have one particular paper called practical filmmaking. Under professional supervision, they have certain, so we divide them into groups and they kind of try and do something. And we have extensive discussion on what they have done. The third is, and this is something I'm saying everything to the participants. You go back to your colleges and universities and possibly start with a film club, little film club, and then start the discussion. Maybe after a point of time, you might also push for a department, a full-fledged department. Is research, that provoke students to do research right from the undergraduate level. Maybe to start with a little, maybe just 5,000 words at the postgraduate level, 10,000 words onwards, whatever. It's like term papers, yes, but the component of research is very important. Like ours is an MA with a research component. The third thing, which is so film studies proper, filmmaking. Third is research, and the fourth is something which I've already mentioned, is that especially over the last 10 years or so, we see film studies courses all over the world, and in tune with that in India as well. You have not only teaching of film, but also media. You cannot understand any particular medium in isolation in this world. This has become such kind of convergent and possibly also with the same tenor, one should say divergent kind of a world in terms of expertise, in terms of finance, in terms of aesthetics, form, and everything. So these four aspects, where the analytical tenor, the practical filmmaking aspect, issues in research, and issues in intermedia context, these four aspects I see in this particular course have been accommodated, not only accommodated, but there's a very interesting kind of there's an intricate balance that has been maintained. If you go into the lineup of topics, you would see that all these four aspects of film studies, as it stands now with all its porosity, has been addressed and very beautifully designed in this particular course. So I like the program, the way it has been designed. And one last thing, that even within that analytical tenor, within that, generally in film studies, and this is one of the things that marks a distinction from the old film appreciation kind of model, between the old film appreciation model and, let's say, the film studies model, is film studies' focus on the popular. The popular was something that film appreciation was skeptical about. So popular is something which is to be looked down upon. Popular is something which represents working class culture, and therefore something which is not up to the mark when it comes to the question of taste. No, film studies believes that if you don't try to understand popular cinema and broadly popular culture, you are not into understanding the culture of most of the people, and a major sector of culture, basically. So that kind of an elitism is something which is an absolute no-no. for film studies, And remember, the original sensibility from which film studies actually comes up, because that sensibility is of trying to speak for the marginalized. That is very important. That kind of the culture of interrogation, the culture of the iconoclastic culture, the culture of questioning, that was what was 1960s and 70s. That sensibility is very important. So that distinction between the popular and the art, we of course, we call certain kind of a cinema the popular cinema, but we refer to the popular mode, the popular mode of interest. So we call it popular cinema. We don't mean by that how much box office business it has done. So there is a popular mode, definitely, which is an industrial mode. And there are other modes, of course, which are alternating modes of interest. There is no doubt about it. But film studies also is very much concerned with popular cinema because it believes that people and society and history and politics cannot be understood without understanding popular cinema. We cannot simply dwell with the great masters in the alternative, film histories. Anyway, so this has been a very, very sketchy and very, very possibly fragmentary account of film studies as an area. I'm sure that you would explore more and more and more and more as the course progresses. But as I said, that the program, the lineup of speakers and the lineup of um, topics is fantastic and something which has done justice to and has maintained the record balance between all these aspects of film studies. I repeat once again, I'm very, very honored to be able to speak on this particular forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhijit, very much. The honor is entirely ours, and you just given us a wide spectrum and the rich matrix on which film studies programs work. And as you were speaking, I was and you spoke about the proximity of the English department with film studies. And of course, in this course also, the people who are with me, this is an English department program. Shipra is the only one from the political science, but basically we are all from English department. And you also reminded me of my professor, who was one of the pioneers of the film studies department of Jadavpur, who actually belonged to the English department.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yes, you're right. And yes, we will be looking into most of these areas of film studies, filmmaking, film aesthetics, research, film media, politics, history in the short 2-week program. And we hope that it will be very meaningful and it will help teachers not only to develop film studies in their institutions as a discipline, as a course, but to probably set up departments. Even in Delhi University, we're struggling to set up a department, though we have a number of papers which are to do with literature and cinema. But we still need a department, really. So thank you very much, Abhijit. Now, may I request my colleague and Ms. Megha Sharma to present a formal vote of thanks and bring this wonderful evening to a conclusion. Megha.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to thank our principal, sir, foremost for, as you said, for being so supportive and so motivating throughout, for not just this FTP, but for many other such programs. I would like to thank Professor Abhijit Roy for providing his cooperation as our external advisor, also for being the chief guest and for the keynotes address. The introduction that you gave us to film studies was truly delightful, sir. And sir, finally, I would like to thank you for being the program director, for being the senior most faculty, for conceptualizing and planning this entire thing, and for being supportive throughout for the entire organizing committee. I would like to thank Dr. Shruti for being the convener, for bringing this entire thing together, and and the others in the team, Shipra ma'am, Arzu ma'am, Nidhi ma'am, for helping me and others for the entire cooperation of this for this FTP. Thank you, sir.
So thank you. So Shruti, tomorrow morning our participants will get the first lecture, which
Yes.
they will be able to access.
Yeah, everything will be posted on the Telegram group by like early morning. They'll get the information about how to proceed with it. The schedule is already posted on the group.
Professor Roy, this would be the general. This would be the procedure.
Yes,
One
yes,
or two lectures, which would be
yes,
online like this.
yes. So today I had a very clear idea about how the program is going to go about. Yes. Thank you very much. So I'm leaving the meeting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.